Glad to have you on the podcast, Johnny. The thing
Yeah,
that I
man.
like to start with on here is your personal heavy metal history, and I think you're going to have an interesting answer because you and the band have been around since like the beginning, basically. So by that, what I mean is like those bands and records that you remember hearing that kind of got you into the genre and how it evolved to where you're at now.
Sure. I think, well, it depends on how far back I should go. The beginning of things where I started listening to metal music, that's like, I don't know, maybe 82, 81. I
Okay.
would say 81 is probably the first record that I bought. But these were heavy metal bands though, because I by that time it was all about Motorhead, AC/DC, Judas Priest, Saxon, stuff like that,
Oh yeah.
Manowar, Motley Crue. But then came thrash metal, of course, as things evolved, and after that we were seeing more brutal acts like, Celtic Frost and Venom and Bathory and stuff like that. So but I also, of course, I love the thrash metal music. So I would say it went from heavy metal to thrash metal to death and black metal.
Mhm.
In short, that's what happened. Of course, I also listened to a lot of punk and hardcore stuff when I was even younger.
Yeah.
So I would say that's exactly what happened. Although I still like all of those styles. I still, I never gave up one style for another. That's not how it happened. And when I started playing, death metal music, that still all of those things were something that influenced us, and
Okay.
and me personally. I still had all those influences, all both musically and lyrically, I would say. So because it all kind of melted together, and then in death metal, I would say, because I was invited to Nihilist in '87,
Oh
and
wow.
um, and after that, I was there for 2 years, and then as I formed Unleashed in 1989, I still had all those influences from all those styles with me, so to speak. But
Yeah.
but of course, you have to. We had to agree that, if you play death metal, and since our band was Unleashed, we realized we have to come to an agreement of what is Unleashed going to be. Because if you put all those styles and you start riffing like Motorhead or somebody else, that's not going to sound like Unleashed. That's obvious. So you can have your influences in Unleashed, but you can't have Unleashed sounding exactly like that. So you can have influences. That's all good and well, and we still do.
Yeah.
But we agreed that within Unleashed, it has to sound like Unleashed death metal, and we have to develop our own style somehow, and we had to move on from there, and so that's exactly what happened. That's exactly how it is, and it's the same today. Actually, I mean, I still listen to all of those old bands that I loved in the early days when I couldn't play myself. So yeah,
Yeah.
in
It's
short,
hard to
that's
let
how
go
it
of that
happened.
stuff. Yeah, it sticks with
Oh
you for
yeah,
life,
yeah, and you're
man.
not
Yeah.
supposed to. Yeah, for sure. That's you're not supposed to. That's it. It's
Yeah.
and I mean that these are records that still goes on. They're still on my turntable at parties and stuff. So yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing that you kind of talked about that with that is like, you said you had these influences, but at the same time you were trying to make Unleashed its own thing. And I think, the band having such a long history, you guys were kind of on the forefront of forging that sound that became known as like Swedish death metal because there weren't a ton of other bands around that time. So you guys kind of had, that like that factor of like being one of the progenitors of it, if you will, because you guys have been around for so long, and you your own thing because you can say you have those influences all day, but at the end of the day, you are such a unique sounding death metal band that you have a sound all your own now that you cultivated.
Thanks. Yeah, we spoke about. I even remember where we sat down when we spoke about this, because it was actually a laundry place, a laundry
Okay.
in the basement of my house. It was a laundry thing, a laundry room or something. We drew up the lines for what Unleashed is going to be like in the future. What is it going to sound like, and and also what is it not going to sound like, because
Yeah.
that's important. And because if you don't decide that, then you're going to kill each other. At the end of the day, somebody's going to say, well, I'm really fucking heavily into Nirvana, and maybe we should sound a little bit like that. No, you will not. These are the type of discussions that I wanted to avoid. And so when we started up, we said, well, we're going to have to develop within our own style. We will be influenced by whatever we listen to. That's normal.
Yeah.
Nothing is created on its own in a room where nobody has been for 20 years. That it doesn't work that way. So, but you have to keep to your style and keep to your roots and develop within that. I think that's the only way to go if you want to last for a long time. And so, yeah, I still think it was a smart move, even though we were very young way back then. But it was a smart move to actually agree on that, because we still do.
Yeah, it seems like you guys have like really good lines of communication in the band because you've had a freaking insane solid lineup for almost the entirety of the band. You and Anders are like the main two original members, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we switched from the first album. We switched one guitar player in '97, and
Yeah, that's
excuse me,
been it.
that's it.
Yeah, that's
So and
crazy.
and of course that makes it easier, because when you make a new record, everybody knows what the other guys in the band really likes, and
Hmm.
of course we also know what they don't like. Nobody in the band would serve, come up with a song or a lyric that you perhaps think that the band members like. That's never happening, because we know that whenever we work together for such a long time, and we pretty much know what the other guys like, so there's really very little risk in that. And so it's an easy way of making a record process moving along, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm curious how all that's changed for you guys over the years from like the early days to now, like how you guys kind of go about starting and writing and recording a record, like especially with technology changing so much over the years. I'm sure you guys have seen every uh like with recording. So how has it changed from like the early days to what you have been doing now, like maybe specifically for this new record of how you write and everything?
Right. Yeah, I would say there are two sides of that. The first one is that if you just look at the actual way of creating a new song
Hmm.
or a new album for that matter, but just a song is very, very similar to what we did way back then. But there is a big difference, of course, because now obviously, like any other band, you can send a lyric or a song through the air.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. Way back then, you had to meet in the damn practice room 3 times a week, and you have to travel to it physically,
Yeah.
and then fucking sit down and ask the other guys if they like the riffs or not. So, and that's a really slow process. I mean, it's
Yeah.
but it's also very developing, because then you learn how to play the guitar, you learn how to play the drums, and I mean that's how I learned how to play the drums, because I had to show Anders, this is what I mean. Do you understand? Do you like it? What? How about doing the chorus like this? And he goes, yeah, let me see if I can play it and if I like it. That's how it was way back then.
Yeah.
So and everybody, I think everybody has bands that are been doing pretty much the same thing, because there was no other choice. There was no other way to do it. So, and today I think I would have to say, though, I like it more now since I'm older, and I don't have the time to sit in a practice room 3 days a week. There's no time for that. Even if
Yeah.
I liked it, and also we hung out a lot. That could be the Friday night could be the start of the party, to be in the practice room having some beer and then move on. And that's not happening today, because you're in your apartment or your house, and you have those beer instead, and then you go out.
Yeah.
So, well, but then there's this other side, of course, where the industry is a different story.
Mhm.
But that too has evolved. I mean, it's developed into what it is today, from way back then. I just realized that, of course, without the business side and without the knowledge and the know-how of the business, we probably wouldn't be here today. Because you can't create music or nothing if you don't have the money to even fucking buy a microphone. So, that was actually the case. Our three first albums, I didn't even have a vocal system to sing through. I didn't practice vocals the three first albums. If somebody told me today that, well, we have a band and I don't practice vocals, well, really, way back then that was just that was self-evident. How could you? I didn't have the money to buy. I didn't even have a microphone. I borrowed one.
Wow.
So in our practice room, I was screaming through a bass guitar amplifier that was 15 watts, and you can imagine how that sounded like. It was just after one practice back in 1991 or 92 with the band, I couldn't speak for a week because my
Oh my
throat was
goodness.
just crashed. And why? Well, because the guitars are louder than me, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but today, of course, if you go into the practice room, I just go in with the vocal system and I put the vocals where it should be, and everybody can hear the vocals and everything sounds at least okay, you know.
Mhm.
But so there's a huge difference, and if you know the business side and you know what to do and you know how to develop things in the business side of things, and I think we do today, at least pretty good, then you can last as a band, and that's very important too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that speaks to the longevity of the band. I mean, you guys have been going strong for nearly almost 40 years now, right? Pretty close. 30, 30.
Yeah, I think what is it, 37 or something?
So,
Yeah, 30.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's
that's
37. Yeah, I have to calculate that. Yeah, I think let me see, in 2029 we will be 40. So yeah,
wow.
in four, yeah, 36 years. Yeah, yeah.
That's so like that's very rare, man, especially these days,
Oh yeah,
bands lasting
that's
that
crazy.
long.
Yeah,
It's unheard of. So,
yeah,
congratulations
it's
on
pretty
that first
crazy.
off, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
used to
it's
get the question, and I don't really know. I don't even know what I mean. What happened? You know, I don't.
yeah.
I never planned this, and quite frankly, I don't know. I don't know any other way. You know,
Right.
it's been an extremely important way, like part of my adult life, not only my younger life, but also my adult life, and I have no idea how to stop. I don't know what is that. What would happen if I did? I
Yeah.
can't imagine that. You know, and so we're just looking forward to the next album. We're looking forward to the next festival we're going out to play this weekend, and you know, it's always been like that. So I don't even know any other way of life.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fun, actually. It's strange but true.
I mean, hey, that work ethic way, just putting everything you have into this art that you do with the music is it's a very rare thing to have. There's people
Yeah,
have different motivations, as I'm sure you know in the music scene. Like,
yeah, yeah,
not everybody wants to life or has that drive to like keep going and keep creating, and you've obviously shown that you absolutely do. So that's an have, I think.
yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Sure. It's I don't like I said, I don't know any other way. So we just go. Just
Yeah.
keep on rolling.
So one thing I want to touch on before we kind of speak about the new album, obviously the band has had a lot of please correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong. It's Norse and Viking mythology into the lyrics and the story of a lot of albums, correct?
Yeah, 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 for sure. Most I would say maybe 85, 90% of our lyrics are like that. Yeah.
Okay. So one thing I've always been curious about, how do you guys feel about like kind of modern popular culture kind of taking from basically what is like your ancestral kind of heritage, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but like video games like God of War and Assassin's Creed and stuff, like picking and choosing these parts of, these stories and kind of using them for their own things. Like, how do you kind of like
Mhm.
view that?
Well, I would say well, it didn't get popular over a year or overnight, really. I mean,
Right.
it's been a long ride, and not just for Unleashed, but for other bands as well.
Hmm.
But well, we were one of the first, obviously. But I would say it's inevitable. Anything that would get popular, increasingly popular, I should say, will have other type of followers. I mean, if it's video games or if it's movies or whatever it is, I think that's inevitable.
Yeah.
Um, and some of it's good, some of it's bad. You know, you can't control everything,
Of
and you
course.
can perhaps most important of all, you can't control the narrative. I can only do what we do, and I can only say what we say, and I don't own what's right or wrong. I can just tell things from my point of view and from our side of the story, and that's what we can control, and that's what we do. So I don't necessarily see it as something bad. Really, it's just
Right.
when things get more popular, I don't think it's bad for us either, or for any other band that would play that would write lyrics the same way we do. So So I'm all good with it.
Cool. Yeah, I've just always found it interesting because like it, having listened to you guys for so long, and when I play a game or like see a movie or something like that, it reminds me of like the music, oddly enough, and it's like, oh, it kind of puts this image in my head of like what you wrote about in a way, or
Okay,
like
cool.
giving some kind of life to, the lyric. That's that character, like this event in history of Norse mythology and everything like that.
All right, good.
Is
Cool.
so. Yeah. Yeah, I've always just been curious, like bands kind of see that thing where it's like, oh, we write about this, but it's also in popular culture now, you know? Um,
Yeah, for sure.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
and it is I think I make those let's say connections sometimes myself, and I
Mhm.
and but also I will have to try not and focus too much about it because I have to write my own story, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. Sometimes it fits very well into something that I've done myself. So yeah,
So that's the segue I want to get into with the new album is you're continuing the story from one of the last albums where we got a new like continuation of it. How do
yeah.
you fit a narrative into an album? This is the thing I've always been interested with concept albums is like making a narrative work within the music. How do you kind of extrapolate where the story goes from start to finish versus like the songs explaining them throughout the album?
Oh yeah, that's actually the challenge right there because I have well let's say well, if I start with the previous album, it ends in one specific event
Mhm.
in the book that we wrote many years ago, and then this new album starts off exactly where the previous one ended. So what we have there and what I have to do is to start thinking about how far in the actual storyline in the actual events from the book should this album go,
Okay.
and I can have an idea about that, but I'm not sure exactly where it's going to end because now it ends on the 11th song. Okay, so but well, now I don't know exactly where that is. I have a general feeling in the beginning of the creation of the album, but it is also like that I can have two chapters that
Mhm.
becomes 11 songs. Now it could
Okay.
be five chapters too, and so that's not so easy. It's sometimes you get a song that I know, or at least that I thought I knew, would be exactly one event in one chapter. Like it could be a battle, or it could be just maybe it's not even a battle. Maybe it's just a description of something that happens, or maybe a warrior sits down thinking, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden I realize it doesn't fit to the song. It doesn't fit to the music. So I have to
Okay.
do something else. I have to move that maybe to the next song, or maybe it's just not fitting. Maybe it doesn't fit to the album at all.
Mhm.
And so that's the challenge, really. That's how after I have all the songs, then I know pretty much what event and what type of lyrical content would fit to each song. And so then I automatically have to decide, okay, where is this album ending? Where exactly, precisely, is it going to end in the storyline? And so this album, for example, ends with the song called "Unknown Flag," where the Miga warriors are on the way home to Birka again, to Swithjod, and after they've been um, camping for a while in Miklagard, which is present day Istanbul.
Okay.
And so they're on the way home, and that's where things end on this album. And but I didn't know that when I started to write the album. I thought it would be something like that,
Mhm.
but I wasn't really sure because again, also if you look at the album cover artwork, the album cover artwork is not exactly one song or one
Right.
lyrical content. It's actually between two songs lyrically. So
Okay.
what you see on the album cover is in between two songs, which I didn't know at all. I had no idea that was going to happen. So when we sat down and spoke about the album cover and what the hell is that going to be like after all this is done, and what I thought would present let's say the spirit of the album and the spirit of the tone of what I have been writing about,
Mm.
then we figured, well, that would probably be a good album artwork if the artists can capture that. So it's that too. But yeah, well, I don't know if that answered your question, but it's
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's not really so. It's a pretty complicated thing that we've started when we started doing this storyline. But again, it's also a challenge, and it's a lot of fun to write lyrics like that.
So as far as that process, when does that come in when you guys are like working on the record? Is it after everything's been finished musically, or do you start writing lyrics before and kind of go around that?
No, no, music first.
Okay.
Well, the storyline is always there, and it just depends on how much of it I will put into each song.
Okay.
It's like that. We start with music, and then as I have maybe 4 or 5 songs, then I can start making figure out if they are these the 5 songs that will start the album, or is maybe song number 3 that I'm getting digitally, is that song number 9? I don't know. It's really hard to make that distinction, or selection rather, that early in the process. So, but I have to make that type of decisions pretty early. Because I have to start writing lyrics. Otherwise, I would just have to wait until like 15 songs are ready and then start writing, and that's not so fun,
Yeah,
because
that's a
that can
lot.
take a lot of time. But Fredrik is pretty, when he sits down to make the new record, he doesn't take forever. It doesn't take 3 weeks, obviously, but it doesn't
Right.
take, it doesn't take a year either. So I know when he started creating songs, then he will start sending it to the band members, and everybody will say what they think. And when they land at my place, then I can start working on them, because then I know everybody likes them. So, yeah, and then I start fitting what I do first actually is that I write I decide which vocal melodies should be to which song,
Okay.
and there's still no lyrics to it, none whatsoever. So I make the melodies, and when everything is ready, I don't make the melodies for like 8 songs, but let's say I make 3 or 4 songs, 100%, with vocal lines for verses and for choruses, for bridges, and whenever that's ready, then I can start try to fit which lyrical content can fit to which song. So that's pretty much how it works.
Has there ever been a point when you guys are recording where you're something written and you're in that phase where like maybe this isn't fitting with the pace, or do you have that all completely worked out by the time you guys are ready to record?
Yeah, I think when we're actually recording it, I would say there are very few surprises. I'm not going to say it's 100% done, but
Yeah.
yeah, we make a pre-production first. We always make
Right.
a pre-production, like a sloppy recording, and that pre-production needs to be pretty good, because if it isn't too good, I mean, when I do the vocals on it, then the melodies and everything is ready, and I
Okay.
kind of just sing right into the cell phone. I play the music on the cell phone, then I sing. No, I actually play the music in my little Marshall, and then I sing the vocal lines through the iPhone, and then it matches together, and you can. It's like I mean, it's like a back in the day, pretty sloppy rehearsal, you
Mhm.
know. But you can for sure understand what the song is going to sound like. So
Right.
it's just going to get better from there, obviously. I mean, but it's good for everybody in the band can listen to it and make their remarks, and say, well, maybe a little bit more of that, maybe this doesn't sound right or something. But most of the time, that's like 95% of what actually is going to happen to the song.
Oh, nice.
It's almost ready when we're done with the rehearsal. So after the album is recorded like that, then you can decide to go into the studio, which happens like maybe a month after that or something like that, depending on the time frame. But very few changes are made in the actual on the actual day of the studio recording. Now it's just not one day. I think I took 2 days with vocals this time.
Nice.
I don't know how many days Anders did with the drums, etc. But that's also, of course, the good side of new technology. You don't have
Yeah.
to go into the studio and smash it in there for in 5 days in order to save money. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good. You can take as long as you like, and that's really good because Fredrik has his own studio, and we just do it until we're satisfied. So.
Do you as far as like the recording process, him having his own studio is obviously massive. A lot of bands don't have that. Um, but when you guys are done kind of recording and fleshing everything out, like how much time on the production side of it? Are you guys kind of like very nitpicky about stuff, or are you kind of like, this is what we want, it's working, and we're gonna stick with that kind of deal?
I think when you mean after it's recorded?
Yeah, yeah, like when it's in like production side of like finishing up the record and mastering and everything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I would say mixing and mastering is it doesn't take such a long time, and that's because Fredrik already knows so well what the band needs, and he does the mixing.
Perfect.
And then we always work with somebody else just to get a second opinion, and either some other guy do the mastering together with Fredrik, or he does it himself. And normally it's a combination, um, just to get a second opinion again. And then the band listens to it a couple of times, and if everybody is happy, then we're done. So it's not
Nice.
really a long process, and normally there's not a lot of debate, really. I mean, it's just like probably many other bands. You want a little bit more of that, a little bit less of that, and the drummer wants more drums, something like that. I want more vocals, No, but really, it's like that. So it's not really a long process, and normally we agree very very fast on how it should sound like, because we've been doing it so many years. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's excellent, man. I'm glad to hear that like you guys got it down to a science basically of like, here's how we write a record. We're in and we're out, and then bam, it's all done. I love
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the process is what takes time to actually
Yeah.
create the music and the lyrics and the vocal melodies and all that. That's what takes time, and I think it took like 2 years this time. So, but that's mostly because of life.
Hmm.
Stuff comes in the way. You can't be working only with music for 6 months when you're 56 years old. It doesn't work like that. So
Yeah.
that's basically it. Plus, I really like to take my time. I really like to
Uh-huh.
consider a lot of things. If is the song really good enough, or is it just me? That's these are things that are really important. You wanna twist things a bit, and smash them up a couple of times, and you know and see if they really can if they can handle the critics, so to speak. And that takes some time. I think it's a good process, and we've been doing it many many times now, so we feel confident that this is the right way to go.
I always wondered too, like at this point, you guys, you're on the 15th album,
Yeah,
seven,
yeah.
yeah, 15th album. So, as far as like you guys have your sound, is there ever a point where you're like writing something, hey, maybe we should try to do this a little different, to like uh not necessarily cater to like people that review stuff, but like just to like switch it up, like people won't be expecting this, or you guys kind of just like, no, we are writing an Unleashed album, an Unleashed song. This is what people expect. We're not gonna like mess with the recipe, so to speak.
Yep, that's it. No, but
Yeah.
really, that's pretty much how it is. I mean, obviously, we listen to uh, everyone who has something to say about the record. If we know they're a death metal fan, and if they enjoy Unleashed in the first place,
Hmm.
of course we listen to that. Um, uh, but you have to weigh things, because I think it was Lemmy who said you can't please them all.
Right.
That's impossible. You have to you have to make up your mind, what is it you want to do. And I think we did that a long long time ago. um, Development is good. You have to take maybe a few risks. You have to make some new stuff all the time, but you have to keep to the roots unless you want to change your fan base. And also, I like listening to and playing this type of music.
Yeah.
I don't want to have other styles in my music. I don't want, you know that would be great, wouldn't be Unleashed. So,
Right.
but for sure, you have to allow a little bit new influences, maybe, and a little bit here and there, so that it becomes fresh enough for a new album. But yeah, like you said, the Unleashed recipe it was carved in stone back in 1989, and that's what we're doing. Yeah, for sure. And it's not going to be any other way. So
Yeah. All right, Johnny. One last little thing I want to do here, since this is a history podcast episode. I want to bring up a couple albums, a couple of them that are celebrating anniversaries, and I would like you to give me some memories or anecdotes about those albums if you can. Um,
Okay.
the first one, because it's celebrating a 30-year anniversary, is Victory. What can you remember about that record?
Um, I remember it probably was the, if we just talk about the record now, I would say it was probably the last record that that we recorded with quite a poor budget. And
Okay.
it was also a time where things were not so digital yet.
Yeah.
So we were pretty worn out back then. Because we toured a lot, and we made absolutely no money whatsoever to reinvest in the band, and we were happy with the album as we did it. Of course, I mean you
Mhm.
always are, but I remember that was like the last album we did when, and after that we said, well, next time around we need to understand the business side of this, or we're not going to survive, because we have to be able to reinvest in the band, get new gear. We have to be able to practice through a fucking, I didn't even have a vocal system to sing through, and things were just a bit worn out. But we really enjoyed the album. I mean, we still play some of the songs,
Yeah.
but you always have to look at albums like that as for the time being.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Because
I don't want to go back in time and change anything, not at all.
right. Yeah, that's the important thing is like standing by your work, not
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
back on it being like, I wish you did this different. It's like, no, it's
Right.
you did it. It's out there.
Yeah,
It's
and I
gonna
think we,
exist
we did
forever.
everything we could with the means that we had, and
Yeah.
and that's why I think I liked it. And of course, you can take a song from 1995 or whatever in 1997, and you can play it through all the gear and all the knowledge and technique you have today, and of course, it's going to sound different.
Yeah.
But that would be flat out stupid, I think. No, but I mean,
Uh
I understand a lot of bands like to refresh their catalog, and I have
right.
total respect for that. I don't find that interesting. I don't like it. I don't want to do that. So
Yeah, and I think some of it for me too, like I kind of like that, the mid 90s rawness to some of these records, because
yeah,
with current technologies, a lot of records are kind of losing that rawness in their sound and things are getting a little overproduced and
yeah,
going
I I,
back
I
and
agree. Yeah, that's something that we speak about that all the time, and every time we're about to record a new album, we speak about the sound as something that, well, what is it that we want to do with the overall sound, like the total sound? Because you can
yeah.
go into details like crazy, but yeah, we try, and you try and want to have the some kind of rawness to it, and so we don't want to sound like we did it live in the studio, because that's ridiculous. It wouldn't sound good at all, but that's too much of a chance to take, because nobody's that tight anymore.
Yeah.
But if you can be, but you don't really get a second chance if you record things live, all of you, at the same time. That's
Seriously.
actually called a live album.
Yeah.
And live albums are fine, but yeah, we just figured that it's, if you recorded something way back then, let it be. It's cool. Today we want to, like you said, we always want to try and bring some roughness, because I like that roughness that the sound brought way back then, and it was like I said, maybe not so overproduced.
Yeah.
Of course it wasn't, because that was the equipment we had back then, and the techniques weren't like it is today. But then again, you don't want to go back in time either. So some kind
Yeah.
of, I would say you probably could get influenced by that for sure.
Yeah, I think there are bands that still do that. Like they kind of evoke that 90s
Yeah,
death metal sound with like that Robert. I
yeah,
appreciate when I
yeah.
hear so.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. The next album here, celebrating a 15th anniversary, is As Still Trembles. Did I say that right? Yggdrasil?
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So 15 years on that one. What do you remember about that record?
Um, I think that was I know when we were ready with that one, I was so damn happy with it. It was ridiculous. Because also Fredrik had developed his own, I think his own style as a producer as well,
Hmm.
and I was so happy that we actually can bring what we did in the past into something new, and still keep the unleashed way of making music and lyrics. And I think that's one of the albums that actually that brought forward all of that, and but still had quite a professional sound. And I'm not saying it sounded like, big arena type music for that matter, but it still had the roughness of death metal, and it should always have that. But yeah, I think it sounded a bit more professional, and I kind of like that because, like I said, none of us want to go back to '97 or '92 for, even though we like the album still. But yeah,
I also really love the album artwork on that one with the tree and everything.
yeah,
Like, oh
yeah,
man, good. I love
yeah.
it.
I think that, yeah, I think it did a good job there. Yeah, it was also like a also a new way for us to start looking into what should the album cover. I mean, because I wanted some of the songs to actually reflect a little bit more on the album cover,
Yeah.
and that one definitely just starts off as a. That's actually, I think that, yeah, that's the first one that starts the story of the world of Odelheim as well. The three first songs, I think,
Oh, nice. Okay.
because that's what it is. As Yggdrasil trembles, that's like the first thing that happens. Also in the Norse tradition, as today we would call it the post-apocalypse world, but in the Norse tradition you speak about Ragnarök and stuff like that, which means
Yeah.
literally that Yggdrasil is trembling, and the world is falling apart somehow. So yeah, I also like that. Yeah, that the artwork is killer on that one.
Yeah. Okay, and the last one here, celebrating a 10-year anniversary, is Dawn of the Nine.
All right, yeah. And this is also another album. I really like the album artwork. I think Dawn of the Nine was again, we just felt that we were on the right track when we were making, let's say, new type of productions. They're not that crazy new for being Unleashed, but for us it was quite a step going from what happened in '97 and earlier up to As It Just Trembles and Dawn of the Nine and those albums. It was a little bit of a step,
Yeah.
and I really liked it. I really liked it, and we just kept moving on from there. And also, this was a time where we played mostly festivals,
Oh
not so
wow.
many tours, and we had also decided that we think that the band will survive for many many years to come if that is what we do, because if you're, I mean, you've been on the road too, if you're on the road
Yeah.
constantly you get worn out and you're not as hungry anymore. And so as you grow older, that's we figured out that maybe this is the way to go. Maybe we should just keep on doing this and make sure that we're hungry like fuck when we go out,
Yeah.
even if it's not 150 shows a year, then at least we go out, and we go out all the time, but we don't play as much when we're actually out, and then we stay hungry, and that's something that we that I think is important actually for a band to last for a long time. At least we did it that way, and I totally understand if others have a different opinion. I mean,
Sure.
music is made to be played live on longer tours, but we just decided that we're not going to do that anymore, and we're still here. So I think we made the right decision.
Yeah, I can imagine just, like you said, getting a little older, just mentally and physically being able to do that for a whole year has got to be just way too much now. And I completely can see that. Like, I would not want to see a band touring that much if at that age. It's just a lot of work, man.
Yeah, it
I
is, and
completely
and
understand.
and it's it has to be something you look forward to,
Yeah.
because it's death metal is pretty demanding music, and I mean, maybe if you're a band that pulls 10, 15,000 people every night, then it's not a problem, because you have all the advantages of a CEO at a huge company or something. But if you're a death metal band, that's a hard thing to achieve, really. So you have to make sure that every time you go out, you're hungry, and you really want to be out there and bang heads, and grab some beers with your friends and have a good time. And I think that's what it's been about ever since the beginning, anyway. So we just sat down and said, well, we since this is not going to stop, how can we do this in a good way so it actually continues? So it was the right choice, and we're still here, and we're still hungry for it, and we're
Yeah.
looking forward to every festival and every show and every album. So yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to touch on those albums, just having that historical, you have an album that's 30 years old. That's crazy. That's not many
yeah,
bands can say that. And so like I think touching on those milestones is important for bands and talking about them is important. So it's
yeah,
really
man, I
cool
agree.
to hear that. Yeah. But as far as the new album, this is probably a little bit of a cliche question, but it's kind of what I want to end on here is what is the thing you're most proud of with this record that you can't wait for people to kind of hear and listen to on the album?
Um, well, I would say the the catchiness of the tunes is what I hope people appreciate the most.
Hmm.
Because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I mean, uh, if the album is it's catchy enough, and it doesn't matter if it's a heavy metal or rock and roll or black metal or death metal, the album is catchy enough, you're gonna want to put it on the turntable again.
Yeah.
You want to bring that fucker to the next party you go to, and you want to tell your friends about it, and you want to when you go to school or to your job, you want to listen to something, and you want to recall it as something that you can actually remember.
Hmm.
And that's been our formula since day one. And sometimes you make a better job, sometimes you don't, but that's what we aim for all the time, at least. And I hope that's what people will find this album as a memorable and pretty catchy album.
Very
So
nice. Yeah. Um, yeah, one last little thing I want to share here. One of my favorite memories from touring with you guys was near the end of tour when you guys brought out the big horn and a beer out of it. That was
right.
so fun. I'm glad I shared that with everybody. And also, I don't know if the Carnifex guys will admit to this, but you guys in Obituary were so welcoming to a newer band, and you know, in that kind of like world, this can be a little like standoffish for newer bands, and neither of you guys were like that. And it was such a great experience for one of my first big tours. So thank you for that. It left a good
Right. Well,
impression
I
on
mean,
me.
welcome. Hey, it's the same here. I mean, we recall that tour as well, and we had a great
Yeah,
time. And that's really what it's all about.
yeah,
That's what the things that you remember. Was it a good tour? Yes, we had a good time, and
yeah.
everybody had a good time. We were swinging our beers, and that's how it should be. And that's probably how you recognize the tours. If there's one band that is having an attitude, then you don't remember the tour for being such a good tour.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah.
that's you have to get along with everybody. Otherwise, it's not a good tour. That's it.
All right. Fire Upon Your Lands comes out August 15th. Where, as far as like people buying the record, where can people do that so they can support you guys and any tours or shows coming up by the time this comes out?
Yeah, I think it should be out, and I think the pre-sales are probably mostly through Napalm's website.
Cool.
I'm not exactly sure, but it should be out in all pretty much everywhere where you buy albums, especially online. I don't know about physical places these days, but for sure online where you normally get your stuff, that's probably the same place for Unleashed as well. So because the Napalm works with all uh all the channels that are that other bands do as well. So I don't think there's any secrecy about that. It's just yeah. So but for sure, if you check out Napalm's website, it will be there. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Johnny. Well, it was good getting to talk to you again, man, and catching up a little.
Likewise.
Very, very excited for this record, and I hope you guys are doing well, man.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. That was
All right.
really good chat, man.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
talking to you again. Hell
All
yeah.
right.
All right. And
I'll
if you
let
see
you.
the Carnifex guys, just give them our best, and
Yeah.
hell yeah.
All right,
All
man.
right. Take
See
good
ya.
care, man.